Morning guys, can't beat a cup of tea and a ginger nut first thing in the morning. I say ginger nut or two. So today guys, something a little bit different. This is something that's been bothering me for a little while. Not majorly, it's just like one of these weird things that you just think of. Battery powered heaters. Why don't they exist? Like, so what I'm talking about is like a small portable heater of no more that sort of size that can heat up a small area, like maybe like this shed, I don't know, or the Twizy. That's the other thing. Now the Twizy doesn't really need a heater because it's kind of one of these cars that you just accept that it hasn't got one, and you know it's open at the sides anyway, so there's not much point in having it. But it has got me thinking. Anyway, if you look across eBay, you'll find a myriad of all these different small little heaters that you can plug into the accessory jack on a car. Don't bother with these guys, they're absolutely useless. I've not even bought one to test, but I know that they're going to be useless. And the main reasons is because these days the accessory jack on a car can't deliver any current at all. It's basically just designed for like mobile phones, things like that. So you're not going to be able to run anything serious off of that. In the old days, you used to have cigarette lighters in cars, so they probably had kind of more beefy cable and they were more set up for that sort of thing. The second reason is these things have got this horrible long wire which creates a massive great, almost like a resistance. You get a massive voltage drop across the wire, and the wires are too thin anyway, so there's no way you're going to get any meaningful power out of one of these things, even if it says it's like 150 watts. And that being said, 150 watts of power in a car is not going to do a thing. You'll know what I'm talking about, right? They're the little heater things that they kind of sell as demisters. Useless. Anyway, I was looking across eBay, just scouring these things to see if there's been any changes recently, and I come across this. This thing looks quite interesting, mainly because it's got two elements. So these are PTC elements. Basically this is like a ceramic heater. I don't know the exact ins and outs of these things, but they're ceramic heaters. And they kick out a fair amount of heat when they work properly. This is what a lot of these mains powered space heaters use. So yeah, this looks quite interesting. The other thing about this is the fact that it's actually got a proper fan, not some Mabuchi motor with like a kind of water mill type thing on that makes a horrendous sound. So this is actually like a kind of PC level fan, which is quite quiet. So what I've done so far with this is I've put some connectors on it, just power pole connectors. I've beefed up the wires on there. I mean, actually the wires on this actually are pretty good. The funny thing about this is it actually comes with a little bag of accessories, like, and it's got two little crocodile clips which are tiny, really flimsy little things, and it's got like an accessory socket jack plug for your car with some wires coming out. The wires don't look too bad, to be fair, but there's no way you're going to use that amount of cable because it's just too long, and a couple of fuses but no fuse holders, so it's a weird one. Anyway, I think this was about 15 quid, and it's supposedly 500 watts. The other interesting thing about this is that it runs on 24 volts as well. So my thought process with this is, what if you could run this off of a higher power battery? Forget 12 volt lead acid batteries, forget trying to connect it to the battery in the car. There's absolutely no point. My electric car has got a tiny little battery, so it's gonna ruin that battery very, very quickly. So my thought process is, let's try and run this off of something more meaningful. So let's have a play. Right, so I've got my power supply here on 15 volts. You can set this kind of manually, or you can fix it to 13.8. So put it on 13.8 or 13.9 thereabouts, and I'm going to wire this up. I've already got a lead prepared with the other end of that on, fuse in there. That is a 35 amp fuse, so there's no problem with that. And yeah, just some bare wires at the end. So I'm going to link those to the power supply, and I'll show you what this thing can do. Right, as it's heating up. So right now it's drawing about 13 amps, and you can see the amps are going up. So the current is slowly moving up as this thing heats up. Now I think the way this works is it it basically just carries on heating up until it reaches its maximum, and then it will just almost like shut off or just hold the same amount of amps. So you can see here, you know, it's rising up, 15.6, 15.7, still going, and I mean there is a fair amount of heat coming out of that, and to be honest, it's too hot to hold your hand over the end of it for any amount of time. Yeah, that's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable now. It's a lovely hand warmer though. So that's kicking out a fair amount of heat. I've not got any other heater on in this workshop at the moment. The other heater I've got is a 2 kilowatt Dyson fan heater, but I'm purposely not going to put that on at the moment, just to see if I can, you know, take a bit of the edge of the chill factor off just with this thing. So yeah, we peaked at about 17 amps. I've actually only got one of these elements wired up. I did do a brief test with 2 and it was pulling about 30 amps, and it was way too hot. You almost need more fan speed to push the air out a little bit if you're going to do that. So that's why I'm quite interested in seeing you know, 24 volts, see how that actually works. So yeah, 17 amps on there. Let's flick it up to 15 volts and just see what happens. So you can immediately hear, and if you heard that, the fan speed has gone up, which is a lot better. And that's definitely chucking out more air, and the current has actually gone up as well. You know, so the extra airflow that you're putting out is actually being compensated with a little bit more heat as well. So I'm going to let that run on 15 volts, and yeah, and we'll see if it actually kind of makes a difference in it to the temperature. I haven't got a thermometer in here, so I can't really do technical tests. But I mean, but the insulation in this shed is like super good, Celotex insulation, and it just holds the heat fantastically, and there's no windows as well, apart from those ones. Right guys, so 15.1 volts at 19.2 amps, so 15.1 times 19.2, it's giving us a total of about 290 watts, so nearly 300 watts of power. Right, so the next part of the equation is I need to try and find a battery that can power this. That needs to be a pretty substantial battery if it's going to do 20 amps for any kind of amount of time. So this, guys, is a battery that I've had knocking around for a little while, and as I might as well try and put it to good use. This is an electric skateboard battery. It's 6 cells, and I believe these are about 8 or 9 amp hours, so it's a pretty substantial amount of energy in there. And that's the BMS there, so that monitors each and individual cell. So the great thing about this, guys, is it's actually got a switch to turn it on and off, which I've disconnected, and it's also got a balancing system, as obviously it's a BMS, so it's got that, and it's also got low voltage cutout and a charge circuit as well. So this is fantastic. This means that you could just build this into a standalone thing with the fan, and when the fan's running, if the voltage of the battery goes down to, you know, too low levels for the cells themselves, it will just cut off, which is fantastic. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rig this up to the fan. There's a few bits of wiring I need to do, and yeah, that'd be good. So this battery's an 8 amp hour 6 cell, so 6 cells, say they're charged to 4 volts, 4 times 6, so that's 24 volts, and then times your amp hours, which is 8, that's giving you 192 watt hours. So the fan is drawing roughly 300 watts. So realistically, you're probably going to get half hour, 40 minutes probably tops out of this battery, which is a pretty good amount of time, and you can charge this in an hour. But the other fantastic thing about this is this battery actually fits under the seat in the Twizy, and if I find somewhere to mount that, I reckon it would actually provide quite a bit of warmth in there. What I'm after is just something that could potentially give you a bit of warmth whilst you're sitting there charging the car. That would be quite nice. So when you're going along, there's too much air coming into the cabin for, you know, for the heating to work efficiently. So, but if you're sitting there, a number of times I've been sitting charging maybe for like half an hour in there, and it'd just be nice to have a little bit of heat, especially the other day when it rained and I was soaked and I was just getting all kinds of cold. So yeah, there's a few bits to do with this. So what I'm going to do with this is the charge socket. I'm going to change this for a better charge socket. This is a horrible little jack plug thing. So I'm going to change this for, I'll probably just use power pole connectors for that. This is also fallen off as well. I might have to, I think I'll solder that back on. I have tested this battery already with the fan, guys, so sorry for the spoiler, but it draws about the same amount of power, but the voltage is high and the current is a bit lower, so that's pretty good. So these things kind of self-adjust, which is quite nice, but that's just a nice amount of heat. You know, if that's in the footwell of the car, that's gonna warm your feet up toasty, that will. So the other use for these fans, I'm thinking, is you could use them to, obviously like I'm doing now, to kind of warm up the shed. Maybe a couple of them connected to the solar panel system, which I've still got to install in this shed. But I've got the 12 volt battery and the inverter, and it's another project. But basically, if you had a couple of those, it would be a lot more efficient than running this bad boy. I mean, the power's a lot lower, but you know, but it will eventually heat this up. Charge lead sorted. Right, the story so far, I've done a bit of wiring. So we've got BMS here, charge lead, main battery leads coming in there, balancing leads obviously there. This wire here is for a switch, so that goes to one side of the switch, and then that one goes to the other side of the switch. Fuse still there, and then obviously this connector here. So I'm going to try and make this all into one unit, just temporarily at the moment. It's probably just tape it up with gaffer tape. I need to get a switch from somewhere as well. I haven't got a switch. Might have to be a trip to the shop. Maybe I could put a switch here or something like that if this bit's going to be poking out. Right guys, here's the prototype then. So I've just insulated all this up, just using like the fiberglass weave tape. It's like waterproof, so that helps. Also, because these cells are like pouch cells, you want to make sure they don't, you know, get pierced or punctured or anything like that, because that could be pretty nasty. I've stuck the fan on the end here. I'm going to put a cable tie around there as well, I think, just to make it stay on there a little bit better. But I'm up to this point now. I just need a switch to go on the end of there. Right, let's get that fuse out while I'm messing around with it. Right, so here's the rig. Got a couple of these connectors on. You can just basically plug them into each other. So then I can just do the same on the other end with a switch. And that gives me the flexibility to just use either these or a switch. Alright, you ready then guys? Got the clamp meter on there. Plug these in. See that leap up, it leapt up to about 20 amps, and now it's going down. It's hanging around 14, yeah, about 14 amps. I mean, this feels exactly the same as what you'd get out of a, you know, if you were to put your heaters on your car on full blast. It's just no difference to that. If anything, it's actually a lot hotter because you're right close to the element there, but that's pretty nice. This thing doesn't seem to have melted yet. So yeah, 14 amps, and then I can measure the voltage. I can measure the voltage on the charge leads, so it gives us an idea of what. So 23 volts, 14 amps. Look at that voltage. It's so stable. It's just holding it. These cells, unbelievable. Just knocked up a little charge lead as well. Stick some bananas on the end of there, and I can charge it from this charger. Right guys, it's time for the test. It's time to test this out in the car. Right, so I've got normal clothes on, normal silly little trainers which don't keep your feet warm at all. Normal stuff, you know, nothing kind of like, you know, insulated or anything like that. It's not really that cold today anyway, it's about 12 degrees, so I probably wouldn't be wrapping up warm in here anyway. Right, so this is how it goes. This little area here, basically just slot that into there, and then these wires are obviously the switch wires, but yeah, that's it. So simple, nice and neat. Hot air blows towards there and obviously rises up, keeps the footwell nice and warm, and we'll find out just exactly how warm it can keep you whilst you're going along. Right guys, so I just popped a map in, got a couple of switches for this heater. So obviously I didn't have any, yeah, I'm just charging now. 61%, sitting here with the heater on, nice and toasty under there. Seems to be working pretty well. I didn't really have it on the way because I thought I wouldn't like waste it, and I wasn't really that cold, so I kind of just treated it like a normal car heater. So yeah, I'm just sitting here now, just getting a bit of charge in, and it's nice to warm your hands up actually. You can put your hand over the front of it. Definitely takes the edge off. But I'll just leave it on for a minute and I'll let you know how it goes. Right guys, well it's warmed my feet up quite nicely. It's not bad. I feel like I might need to up the temperature, like enable the other element on there, because I don't know, I think 300 watts is probably pushing it to try and, you know, maintain a temperature sort of down here. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely working, but I think it just needs a little bit more. I actually bought another switch, another 15 amp rated switch, so I've got two, so I'll be able to switch that second element on and off. If you were to turn that on, because these things heat up so quick, I reckon if you turned it on, the second element on, like intermittently, just turn it on for a bit, then off, then on for a bit, and just like burst it in power, that would definitely make the overall temperature go up. So maybe like it needs some sort of like logic control or something. I don't know, maybe I'm getting carried away, but I reckon if you could kind of pulse it on and off, because what's happening is you're getting air going through both elements, and only one of the elements is actually hot, so you're getting cold air coming out the other one, and it's mixing the two. But yeah, I'm quite impressed though. I'm quite impressed. It's definitely, like, normally my feet would be pretty chilly, but I'm sitting here absolutely fine, just whacking a bit of charge in, you know, listening to some tunes in here. Yeah, we're all good. I'll tell you what, with the heated seat on as well, makes a lot of difference. It's definitely just improving the comfort factor. Right, I'm back then. So, thoughts. Well, I actually think it works pretty well. It was definitely taking the edge off on the way home. That last final bit where my legs would have definitely been cold, and I would have felt my feet would have been, you know, cold. It's that difference between kind of when you get in from a normal car, you just don't feel any different. When you get home in the Twizy, you feel like a little bit, like you've been through it a little bit, which is part of the fun, I suppose. But actually, this thing definitely makes a difference. Run time, I didn't time it. I guess it was probably about half an hour, like I was saying. Anyway, if I was just nipping to the shops, like in the depth of winter, like when it was like 0 degrees outside, I think this would be really useful. But for doing a long journey, you're probably going to run out of power. I mean, it's not very big, is it? I mean, I could probably double up the battery if I wanted to make it last a bit longer. Right, let's have a look at the bits I've got from Maplin. So these are just switches, just straightforward. They say 16 amps on them. I can probably believe that actually. It's probably not far off. This is very similar to the switch that was actually on this before, but because the old switch was on a skateboard, it had got a load of water in it and it wasn't great. So what I might do is use this one, I think. So maybe on there, I don't know. Right guys, here we go, like another prototype, just made things a little bit more stronger around here. I've got a switch on here as well, cool as that. Yeah, and I've just used these connectors to connect this switch, just so if I want to move this switch somewhere else I can just do that quite easily. But yeah, my power supply just seems to have gone pop. I don't know, it's not blown up completely, but it's not delivering any voltage. Every time I was trying to charge this battery, and the power supply was just dropping in voltage and making a really high pitched sort of sound, and it was dropping down, and the charger was tripping off. So all this messing around with heaters and stuff like that with that power supply, looks like it's buggered it up. Alright, there you go guys, it's all in. Let's grab a bit of light. You see it just sitting there. Right guys, that just about concludes that then. I'm going to do some more tests and play around with this, but I think it's quite an interesting idea. The fact that there's just no battery powered heaters on the market at the moment is quite interesting, because clearly the battery technology is getting towards it being possible. But I think the key is higher voltage, lower current, you know, quite a substantial amount of capacity in the battery, energy dense batteries. You know, these things could be pretty useful for loads of things, like camping, I mean, heating small areas, I mean, heating a shed like this without having to run mains power you know, just heating you, even if it's not actually heating, you know, the whole shed, because unless you've got insulation, it could become, you know, a bit of a problem. Anyway guys, hope you found the video interesting, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.